In this video, we're gonna talk about how to sell your home for top dollar in Atlanta, Georgia. And that's coming up right now. Hey everyone, welcome back to Living in Atlanta. This YouTube channel is all about helping you figure out what it's like to live in and around the Atlanta, Georgia area. My name is Mark. I'm a realtor here in Atlanta, and my team, the Living in Atlanta team, would love to hear from you. We help folks relocate here from out of state and help folks in state buy homes here all the time, and we absolutely love it. So if you're thinking about buying, or even if you just need more information about what it's like to live in Atlanta, don't hesitate to reach out. All of our contact is in the description below. We would love to hear from you. All right, so today I'm switching it up a bit. A lot of my content is about what it's like to buy a home, what neighborhood you should buy in. I wanted to provide some value to people who may be considering selling their home, and the title is Selling Your Home in Atlanta, Georgia, but these tips should apply to pretty much any market in the US. So hopefully, if you've seen how prices have gone crazy and you're in a position to do so, you're looking to sell your home, this video will really help you with some basics, some instruction, some advice, and some tips to have a very smooth process and to get top dollar for the sale of your home. So let's get right into it. My top tips and tricks for selling your home in Atlanta, Georgia. All right, so first off, the beautiful part about selling your home right now is that there have been literally very few times in history of the US housing market where it's been more advantageous for a seller to sell their home. Literally, in this market, sellers are getting not only top dollar, but they're getting some really ideal circumstances depending on what they're looking for in the sale of their home. Everything from leasebacks, staying in your home after you've closed on the property, or extending the close farther out to accommodate a certain situation, or getting cash offers or offers that have no due diligence, that are bought sight unseen or in as-is condition. It is very advantageous right now for sellers to sell their home for a wide variety of reasons. So if that's you, you're looking to sell your home, maybe you've never done it before, or maybe you've done it before and you haven't had a good experience, here are some things you need to know if you're going to go sell your home either in Atlanta, Georgia, or really any market in the country. So number one, let's talk about a real taboo subject amongst realtors and home sellers. Can you sell your home without an agent? Now, I'm not going to spend too much time on this topic, or really any topic in this video. I'm going to give you some broad strokes and suggestions so we don't have an hour-long video. But really briefly, what I'll say is this. Can you sell your home yourself without a realtor? 100%. Yes, you can, with one caveat that so many people who try to do it overlook, and that caveat is this. You can sell your home by yourself if you have the required knowledge to do so. It's as simple as that. You see, realtors like to pretend like they have some sort of knowledge that others can't obtain, and home sellers like to pretend that realtors do absolutely nothing. Both are not true. The reality is, like anything else in life, to do something successfully and at a high level, you need a certain level of information and you need a certain level of experience. And if you have those things, then yes, you can sell your home yourself. But what we see most of the time with people who sell the homes themselves is that not only do they not have the information they need to be successful, but they don't even try to attempt to learn the information. They really think that there's nothing that goes into the sale of the home. And what happens is, a lot of times when I've been involved in these types of transactions on the opposite side of a for sale by owner, I end up doing twice the amount of work. I am the one explaining to this person how everything needs to go. I'm helping them fill out contracts. I'm providing the contracts. I'm negotiating on both sides. I'm keeping both sides up to date on all of the timelines, making sure all of the things that need to happen for a successful close are happening, because this seller has no idea what they're doing. So it can be very frustrating for a realtor. So what I would say is, if you have experience in this arena, or if you are going to put the time, energy, and effort into educating yourself to get to a place where you can do it, then yes, go for it. You can save yourself money, and it's totally a possibility for you. But if that's not you, and you're just looking to save a few bucks, but you don't want to put in the work to learn the process, you could be running into a big mistake, because you're running into a situation where you're not represented by someone who's got your best interest in mind. You don't really know what you're doing, and there's going to be a high degree of possibility that that deal will fall through. So that's my opinion on selling your home yourself. Most of the time, I will recommend you hire a professional agent. Now, a lot of people balk at commissions, especially on the seller side, where you do typically pay both the buyer and seller, but a great realtor will be worth their weight in gold. Not only will they make sure you have a smooth transaction, not only will they make sure you get top dollar for your home, but they're going to utilize their experience to make sure the transaction is as smooth and stress-free as possible. So let's move right into hiring an agent. How do you hire the right real estate agent? After all, there's about 1 million of them in almost every city. I mean, the barrier to entry for real estate agents is very low. And so what that means is not that there's not realtors with good skill, but that you have to weed through a lot of agents who have little to no experience or who are just incompetent. So what type of agent should you hire? Who should you look for? Well, real quick, there's really some main classifications of agents. Not official classifications, I just mean you see a lot of the similar scenarios. So one of those scenarios is a very new agent who's working on their own. They're a solo agent. And we were all new agents at one time, but what I will say is the reality is experience is one of the most important things when looking for an agent. Not that a new agent can't do a good job for you, I would never say that, but in this industry, a lot depends on having seen things before and knowing how to handle them. Being in a situation you've been in before, you know how to navigate it, you have the resources and the contacts to provide the right information to your clients. So experience does matter. So I would personally avoid a brand new agent who's working on their own. Now, on the extreme opposite end of that spectrum is a mega team. So these are some of the largest broker teams with great brand recognition. You've heard their names, and it's not that they won't do a good job, but here are my thoughts. So if you think about like a Marc Spain, for instance, is a very large brokerage. And of course, if you hire Marc Spain, you're not going to see or talk to Marc Spain. You're going to talk to one of the agents that they hire, okay? So you're really going to be assigned an agent. So as the larger these teams and brokerages get, and I want to distinguish between a team and a brokerage, because you can hire someone at Keller Williams who has nothing to do with another agent at Keller Williams. But if you are hiring from someone from a large team, it's good in the sense that they'll have systems in place to do this at a high level repeatedly, okay? So there is that. But what I don't like about these teams is it's very easy to get lost in a shuffle. They do so many transactions a year. They have so many agents and so much stuff going on. Oftentimes you lack the personal attention and expertise that I really think you should have in a transaction like this. So you don't want to just be a statistic. You want to be important and special to your realtor. So I would personally avoid the brand new solo agent and the big mega team where you don't have a personal connection with the agent. They're more or less assigned to you, and they may be good, they may not be good. It really can be a mixed bag. So that leaves two categories that I think you should be choosing from. Number one, an individual agent with lots of success and experience. So this is someone who's worked in the industry at least 3+ years and someone who has a track record of sales. What this is telling me is that this person can survive in a very difficult industry. They can be successful, so they must have some skills going for them. And if they have a track record of sales, that shows you they have a level of experience to be able to help you through probably some uncommon problems as you track through the selling process. Now, the other category I think is great to choose from is a successful medium-sized team in your area. So not the mega Marc Spain team, but if you just do some Googling and research, you'll have some local teams that have been around for a few years that do a good amount of transactions. And these are great people to choose from as well because they haven't gotten too big to the point where you're not going to get great service, but they have the systems in place, they have the experience to where you're really going to have someone looking out for your best interests and knowing how to navigate issues. So choose from, in my opinion, either a solo agent with years of experience and actual sales under their belt, or a small to medium-sized team that, again, has some experience in sales. All right, so you've hired a great agent, you're ready to get started. Let's talk more in depth about the actual process of getting your home sold for top dollar. Now, there's a lot of confusion, or a lot of varying opinions rather, about what is important in selling a home. And really it comes down to three main categories: price, location, and condition, okay? And we can't really change the location of your home, so we're not going to talk much about that. The location is the location, and hopefully it's a great one. If not, I'm sure someone at some point will like that location. So really what it comes down for what you and your agent can control in condition and price. Now, I've been on a lot of listing presentations. I've lost a lot. I've won a lot. What's really interesting to me is the kinds of things that sellers are typically interested in. And oftentimes, to be honest, it's not the most important thing they should be worrying about. For instance, a lot of times when you have a listing presentation, clients want to know, what marketing do you do? And this really seems to be the prevailing mindset among selling your home. We need to find new and creative ways to market the home to reach a larger audience of people to increase the chances that the home will sell. Now, that's fairly sound logic, but unfortunately, that is not really the crucial factor in getting your home sold. In fact, I'll be really honest with you and tell you what the most important factors are. What it really comes down to is the appropriate price that appeals to the largest cross-section of potential qualified buyers in that price range, and the condition and presentation of the home. So that's A, getting it as good a condition as your budget and time and energy allow. But, and here is where your agent is really going to come in, the presentation, that first initial reaction. Number one, when they see the home, the photos online, on Zillow or in the MLS, and then two, when they do their first visit. Those are the most important factors in going to sell your home, and a lot of people undervalue those and they overvalue some unique marketing. But here's the deal with marketing. The reality is the overwhelming majority of qualified buyers are represented by agents, and the overwhelming majority of these qualified buyers and agents are looking on the MLS. And so you can do all kinds of unique marketing. You can create fancy videos. Everyone loves the Matterport tours and all the type of technology that is supposed to be the new and exciting thing to help you get your home sold. The reality is you need to get the home in as good a condition as you possibly can. Take the best high quality professional photos that you can and really present it in tip-top shape for those first initial visits. You can advertise your home with a big billboard, or you can have a plane fly a banner over a city. Well, that's not where the qualified buyers are looking. The qualified buyers are looking on the MLS, which translates to Zillow, Redfin, and all that stuff. It all comes from the MLS. So if you're marketing in the MLS, you're marketing where you should be. And really the only variables after that are what's the right price and how good have you taken care of it, what's the condition, and what was our first impression as we walked through. So a great realtor should be able to guide you with how to price the home competitively. But what I'll say is a very common trope that realtors deal with is, well, let's try this amount to see what happens. And in this market, we're probably hearing that more than ever. It's a classic mistake of home sellers. The reality is your price is a huge component of the actual marketing of the home. It's not just the price, it is actually part of your marketing. Because if you set it at a certain price, you are going to completely cross off a huge cross-section of potential buyers. So the ideal, in my opinion, is to list it at or slightly below market value based on what the comparable sales are in that area. You want to be right at market value or slightly below. Now, the beauty about this is it's really hard to undersell your home because the market will naturally correct. If I have a $400,000 home that I go and list for $100,000, it's going to go up and be outbid until it reaches roughly market value. We've seen this time and time again. The market corrects. And a lot of times what happens is if you price it slightly under market value, you get much more interest, which creates, in many cases, a bidding war, and then you see the price driven up above list price to at or above the price that you may have wanted to list originally, but by marketing it and pricing it at slightly below the market value, you're going to create a lot of interest and you're probably going to get top dollar in that scenario. Now, as far as condition goes, I understand everyone has a limit to the time and money they can put into their home, but what I'll say is there are a lot of things you can do just with elbow grease that are going to put a lot of money back into your home. One example would be landscaping. I think this is one of the most low budget but high impact ways to increase the value of your home because it all goes in with the initial first impression. As they're pulling up, as they're walking into a home, it tells their brain, first of all, it gives them a very pleasant sensation. It's usually much more pretty when you see a well-landscaped property. If there's flowers or if it's just, trimmed hedges, just well maintained, that's gonna put a positive association with the home right even before they walk in the door. So landscaping is a great thing to invest either some elbow grease or hiring a company to do. But just generally speaking, you wanna do as much as possible. I'm not saying you need to renovate everything, but what I'm saying is you want to have it look like a really well-maintained home. So scuffs, scratches, smells, any damage, you wanna address prior to selling the home so that you create a better initial impression for the buyer, and it's potentially something that's not going to show up at that point on an inspection report. So it's one less thing you have to fix later on. So I think a helpful analogy for this whole process, selling your home and what's important, is going fishing, right? Instead of trying to catch as many fish as possible though, we're trying to catch the right fish that's not gonna slip off the hook at the last minute. So if we're following through with this analogy, when you do that initial cast, that's really your price. And like I said, if you overprice, if you overcast, you're not gonna be anywhere in the vicinity of the type of fish that are appropriate for your bait and your line. You can't catch 100-pound fish with a line weighted for 25-pound fish. And I hope that makes sense. If you're an experienced fisher, please don't at me. But the cast is the price. So you wanna make sure that cast is right in that school of fish that's appropriate for your area and that price range. Now, the other thing is the actual bait, and the bait is the condition and first impression of the home. You want to make sure it's dialed in. Again, you don't want junk in the home. You don't want damage in the home if you can help it. If you have something unfinished, if you have anything that's going to look negative in that first impression as they walk up, you want to address it. Otherwise, the fish is going to see that and say, that doesn't look so appetizing, and swim away. So, more so than coming up with creative tactics for fishing out of your boat that don't involve simple, casting a line out there. That's what I was talking before about all the marketing techniques that people will offer. Really what it comes down to is the appropriate price and getting it in really great condition and taking quality photos and having a great initial impression as they walk through for the first time. So that's where your agent comes in, and that's where you work with your agent to get everything dialed in so that they want to make an offer as soon as they're walking through that home for the first time. The first impression cannot be overstated how important it is. So continuing on with the theme of being proactive, you're really going to want to make sure you disclose everything that's going on with the house, both good and bad, to the best of your ability. Now, this may go against common logic to just keep your mouth shut and let the buyer do their due diligence, but the reality is if you want this to close quickly and on time, you should get ahead of any potential issues. You will likely need to fill out a seller's property disclosure depending on your market. This is a document that's going to tell the potential buyer the age and condition of all of your major systems and if there's been any improvements made in the property, in addition to what will be conveyed with the home. Now, a lot of clients are tempted to just say, I don't know. They'll breeze through it. They'll answer half-heartedly. Of course, it is a legal document, so It's important to be honest for legality reasons, but really it's important to be honest because you want to get out ahead of any potential issues. If you have had structural issues at some point and you've addressed those and you have some kind of warranty available, you need to disclose all that, not only because it's the law, but because these things will show up during an inspection. And if you've already let them know that, if you've already provided the warranty information or whatever you have available, you're much less likely to get a termination or to run into some kind of issue. So that could be a lot of different things, disclosing that it's septic, disclosing that the pipes are made out of a certain material, disclosing that it's built before 1978 and it may have lead-based paint. There are a lot of different scenarios. You need to take some time and do some research. Hopefully you have most of the information you'll need already to fill that form out. But the point is, take your time with the seller's disclosure, do your research, and provide detailed information to the best of your ability and be honest. And if there is an issue that you discover throughout this process, I recommend you take care of it before listing. Now, yes, you can negotiate repairs during the transaction, but in order to really get this thing to the closing table with as few hiccups as possible, you want to address things prior to them being asked. Now, I'm not saying you have to preemptively spend tens of thousands of dollars to fix an issue, but you should at least be aware of the scope of the problem and the cost of a potential fix. Not only so that you can potentially take care of it, but if the buyer is requesting it be addressed, you at least already know, is this really a big issue? If it needs to be addressed now, and if so, how much is it really going to cost? So it's really important to not skip over the disclosures and sharing what's going on with your home to a potential buyer. All right, so you've hired a great agent, you've come up with a competitive price, you've got the home dialed in great condition, and your agent has set you up with fantastic professional photography. Maybe you've had an open house where everyone can see what great condition the home is, and you're waiting for the offers to come in. And they're starting to come in, and they're gonna come in this market. If you've priced appropriately and done everything we've talked about, you're gonna have a lot of offers to choose from. But it's really important to understand that price is not everything, and a qualified agent will definitely take you through this process. But here's some things to keep in mind. I see terminations all the time. They do happen, and what we're seeing in this current market is because it's such an extreme seller's market, you have so much competition, the buyers are reacting in a way that's causing problems for the sellers. So for instance, they are now putting out multiple bids at a time on multiple homes. They are terminating on some contracts before they even have an inspection because in many cases they hadn't even seen the home. So that's a good tip for you. You definitely don't want to accept an offer for someone who hasn't seen their home, either in person or through video, which does happen. So you want to stipulate that when you're reviewing any offers. But even more so, you're going to want to look at the financing. Now, everyone asks me, I don't understand why cash is so desirable because it's the same amount as if someone was financing it. Well, the reason why cash is so desirable is because it represents far less risk. There's far less risk for the deal falling through. And when you're selling your home, really, it's all about reducing risk of the deal falling apart. You want to create as few options for the buyer to terminate as possible. And if they're paying cash, they don't have a financing contingency and they don't have an appraisal contingency usually. So that's two less major reasons why they could terminate. And so that's why cash is often very favorable to buyers. Now, there is a bit of a hierarchy with loan programs. Traditionally, conventional is the best, and FHA and VA are a step below those for a few different reasons. I am not by any means saying that you should not accept FHA or VA offers. What I am saying, if everything is equal and you have a conventional loan, you're probably going to want to go with that because it's probably a more qualified buyer and it's an easier institutional loan to deal with in terms of the underwriting. But all that to say, you want to make sure that your agent is speaking with the lender representing the buyer, asking them about what their employment status is, how many docs have already been submitted for underwriting. There's a lot of information you can gather from speaking with their lender. If you can't get a hold of their lender, you can't talk to anyone about their qualifications, that could potentially be a red flag. So there's a lot of factors to consider when going through and accepting an offer. And really, you need to know what's important to you. The net price to you might be the most important, or you may have a situation where you're looking for a lease back where you can stay in your home after close. Everyone has different scenarios, so this is a conversation you'll have with your realtor to make sure they understand what's most important to you. But all things being equal, you want as little risk as possible. And what that means is you need to make sure the buyer is qualified, and you need to make sure everything in the contract in terms of the timelines and the stipulations represent as little risk to terminating as possible. Now, another big thing that I see a lot of sellers do that always really surprises me, and it's probably on the advice of their agents, is accepting an offer day one. Now, why do I have a problem with that? Well, very simply, don't you want to give more time to potentially create a bidding war that will drive the price and improve the conditions? If you accept the first offer that you get, you're really not allowing for the market to take effect and work on your behalf. So what our approach typically is listing on a Thursday or Friday, hosting an open house over the weekend, and making it clear that we will not accept an offer until Monday morning at the earliest. So this puts everyone on a level playing field. They know they'll have time to see it. They know they'll have time to get an offer in. It's more fair for buyers because I don't have to say, oh, we already accepted an offer day one. And what it usually does is create a multiple offer scenario where the price goes up, the conditions improve, and we have a lot of great offers to choose from. So that's always my recommendation. Now, of course, there could be a scenario where you get an above asking cash offer with no stipulations, and they tell you you have to accept it day one or we're going to walk. That may be the case, and that may be the best decision for you, but we're speaking generally on these topics, and generally speaking, I would say you want to give your home at least 3 to 4 days in the market before making a decision on which offer you want to go with. All right, so the last tip I'll leave you with is just to be reasonable. And now this probably seems very obvious, and most people are reasonable, but you would be surprised how many transactions I see fall apart just from people not being reasonable with requests or responses. So what do I mean? Well, it goes back to the seller's disclosure. Now, the beauty of this document, not only being honest and upfront for legal reasons, but you set the expectation with the buyer, this is the condition of the home. And so anything you may be asking me to improve, if you already knew about it, it really takes away your grounds for potentially asking for an improvement there. But if during due diligence they do end up asking for repairs of some kind or a credit of some kind, you really want to work with them as much as you can. Hopefully on the buy side, they will have reasoning for everything they're asking for, and they will have quotes, estimates, they will have all the documentation you need to make a great decision. But to the best of your ability, providing information, being respectful, being communicative is going to help both parties involved get to the closing table. And that's what everyone really wants. A lot of times when sellers or buyers ask for things that were already disclosed or are not realistic or have a ridiculously high value that you already knew about, it creates problems because they're unrealistic expectations, unrealistic requests. So all that to say, to the best of your ability, getting your home in great shape, disclosing everything you can disclose is going to greatly mitigate the risk of a deal falling apart. The reason why deals fall apart is because people try to not disclose stuff, hide stuff, or they didn't take good care of their homes, and there was a big maintenance issue that they didn't address for many years, and it can't be fixed quick enough to get to the closing table for that buyers. So the process of selling your home, if you want to do it right and stress-free, does involve educating yourself about the current condition of your home, disclosing that to the potential buyers, and just being reasonable with their requests along the due diligence period. All right, y'all, so that's it. Some real quick and brief tips and tricks if you're going to sell your home. Hopefully that helped give you some ideas, really get your mindset right throughout this process, what's important, what's not important. Of course, it's a very detailed, in-depth process. I could probably make an hour-long video about all the tips and tricks and insider information for selling your home, but I just wanted to touch on some of the most common problems that I see. So if you're selling your home, I really hope that provided you some value and gave you some good information to follow up on. Again, my name is Mark and my team is the Living in Atlanta team, and we are here for you. We try to provide value, make connections, and build relationships. We love Atlanta and we love helping people buy homes and enjoy the city. So hope you enjoyed that. Please reach out anytime. All the contact information is in the description below. Please like and subscribe, and until my next video, I'll see you next time.